What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Forward Progress, Week 17 Best Bets Edition, live here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network, and presented by FanDuel. I'm Rob Pizzola, joined today by Judah and Suma. No Hitman this week. It's a shame. He's allegedly on a golf trip, but let's be real. He's probably avoiding the heat of another loss and the risk of dropping behind me in the season-long standings. That's just the kind of guy Hitman is. Would bail on a show to not get an L. First off, happy holidays to everyone watching. Unfortunately, we couldn't keep the good vibes rolling after Week 15. We went 1-3 as a group last weekend, but we're back at it today, breaking down all of this weekend's games, including the Saturday slate. We're also still this close to hitting 8K subs. Please, if you enjoy the show, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like, make sure you share. We'd love to hit that milestone with your help this close. So please put us over the top. And with the holidays pushing us to Friday this week, it's double-edged sword. We have more injury news at our disposal that we can work with this week, but we also have a tougher, more efficient market. So be cognizant of that. No excuses. It's going to be tough to rack up wins at this stage, but we're ready to take on the challenge. And we're going to dive right into Week 17 here, starting with our Saturday games. It is the Chargers and the Patriots. First game on the board on Saturday afternoon. A little bit of a weird scheduling time to put the Chargers on the weird body clock start, although that kind of stuff doesn't really matter all that much anymore nowadays anyways. Market at FanDuel is Chargers minus 4.5, minus 0.5. Total in the game is 42.5. I know you guys are probably already sick of hearing my voice today and not getting Suma and Judah in to start, but I'm the one with the opinion on this game. And it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone out there as to what I'm going to go with. It's a lean. I think the weather in the Northeast this week, you got to monitor. It looks totally fine in New England for tomorrow. But I've been backing these Patriots overs. And a lot of them, frankly, have been getting lucky over time. Patriots putting up yards in garbage time, things of that nature. The Patriots defense is quite bad. They play a lot of man coverage. Ladd McConkey is a man coverage killer, and they simply don't have the cornerbacks to match up in this particular game. Marcus Jones is going to be inactive again this week. That's going to be a big blow for this Patriots defense against this Chargers offense. On the other side of things, Chargers defense has steadily fallen off a cliff. One of the reasons why is in recent weeks, Denzel Perryman has been out. He's been nursing a groin injury, came back last week, re-aggravated that groin injury, and it's really hurt their run defense. And this is another game where New England will probably be able to establish the run in some capacity. And that helps open things up for Drake May on offense as well. Works out of more manageable downs. I think 42.5 is a little bit light. You might pull your hair out in this game watching Harbaugh punt on 4th and 1 from midfield or Gerard Mayo do the exact same thing. And that's the reason it's more of a lean than a full-on bet at this point. But I do think the number is a little light there for the early game. Second game on the board on Saturday is the Broncos and the Bengals. This number is pushing out towards 3.5. Cincy minus 3, minus 118 at FanDuel right now. Total in the game, 49.5, juiced upwards. We do have some other books in market priced at 50 for this particular game. Suma, I'm going to throw it over to you here first. Broncos and Bengals. You were looking at one of the sides in this matchup. Oh, got you muted, Suma. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself there.
Damn.
All right.
Okay. Oh, the classic mistake all over again. I'm leaning towards the Broncos. I like that matchup for them. Denver's defense. We know they are blitzing at one of the highest weights in the league. Joe Burrow over the course of the season is averaging a mere 0.06 EPA per play. A higher success rate of 48%. That's 13th in the league among qualifying quarterbacks. That EPA per play number is pretty much middle of the pack. It's the same tier as Caleb Williams, strictly looking at EPA per play against the blitz. Riley Moss and Pat Surtain, I think, are maybe one cornerback duo in the league right now that could get anything going against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Denver usually struggles more against wide receivers playing out of the slot, so I would expect Jamar Chase to be moved in the slot quite often this matchup here to get a healthy share there. But I think in this matchup, I don't see the Bengals actually running the ball well, so it will probably come to the Joe Burrow show all over again. Can he perform against the blitz? Can he get the ball out in time? Orlando Brown being back should help. Amaris Mims left against the Browns. Should be good to go. Practiced fully yesterday. T. Higgins looks like a go. So this offense will basically be completely healthy. But the matchup advantage, or maybe the small matchup advantage for how the Denver defense has been playing, might be a small edge here. But in general, it will probably come down to Joe Burrow again. On the other side, the Bengals defense has been a hot mess for almost all of the season. In recent weeks, they have looked improved, but they faced Cooper Rush, Will Levis, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I don't trust that defense at all. Sam Hubbard won't be playing. Sheldon Rankins has been missing since week 10 now, I think. And that Denver offense has been, I think, pretty easy to diagnose this season. If you, as a defense, cannot control the line of scrimmage against them, I think that Sean Payton is gonna scheme you to death. Bo Nix has been much better, obviously, from clean pockets, was under pressure, averaging 0.54 EPA per play, more from clean pockets than under pressure. Their pass protection has been mostly good this season. I don't see that the Bengals get tons of pressure here. And then I think that the Broncos will be successful with all these short passes, screens, dump offs, and try to create space against that defense. All in all, I like the matchup for Denver here. I'm slightly lower. I like that number at a decently price at the 3, or maybe a juiced 3.5.
Yeah, I'm with Suma on this one. I look at this game in particular, and since he's gone 3 games in a row against what I would consider subpar offenses, they obviously got DTR last week with Cleveland. It was Tennessee the week prior. It was the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush Monday Night Football the week prior to that. And those are not necessarily offenses that are going to be able to expose this this Cincinnati defense. But, there's a stark contrast between the units that these teams are putting out on the field. I mean, Denver lost Alex Singleton earlier in the year for the full season. Aside from that, they're getting Riley Moss back at corner. This is like a completely healthy Broncos team. And you look at the Bengals defense, Sheldon Rankins, Sam Hubbard out on the defensive line. Logan Wilson is on IR in the linebacking core. Dax Hill, DJ Turner at corner have been out for a long time on IR. This is just like a shell of a defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. So I personally see Denver as being a valuable side in this game as well. And I'm in agreement with Suma on this one. It's definitely Denver or pass. I think the way the market's headed, you can potentially hold out to see if you get a 3.5 flat. I don't think we're going to get there at this point. I don't mind Denver in the +3, +100 range. Our final game on the board for Saturday is an NFC West game. Unfortunately, it's kind of meaningless in the fact that the Arizona Cardinals got bounced from the playoffs last week. Regardless, it's a game that we can bet on. And right now, Rams are laying 6.5, -115. Total in the game, 47.5, juiced towards the over. A lot of talk about what the look-ahead line was in this game, which was Rams 3.5. We're now out to almost a touchdown. Suma, I'm going to go over to you here on this one. Cardinals and Rams, pretty heavy line movement over the course of 1 week. Obviously, the Cardinals have some issues at offensive tackle, left tackle, and right tackle going into this game. Do you think that this line move is justified?
Not to this extent, I would say. I'm personally struggling to get to the good 6.5 here for Arizona. Obviously, the sevens earlier in the week were a little bit tastier, but I'm still struggling to get to 6.5. It's probably mostly the motivational angle, but over the last 2 years, I subjectively feel like John Gannon has gotten these guys to play all the time. There weren't many opportunities. I don't remember really any game where I felt like he has lost anyone on the team. So I'm not expecting like this huge motivational discrepancy only because the Cardinals have been eliminated from from the playoffs. On the surface, the Rams offense should have a better matchup this week. Stafford has been very inconsistent this season. Last 2 games, granted, were in terrible or in bad weather conditions. It was very cold last week in the Jets game. He's also been a completely different quarterback on clean pockets versus pressure. He's averaging 0.84 EPA per dropback, more from clean pockets versus under pressure. Arizona, obviously not the greatest pressure style defense in the league. They mostly try to rotate their coverages post snaps and try to create a few free rushers. I think this should also be their recipe in this game, because I think in general, this Rams O-line should have the edge in pass protection. So what Matthew Stafford will we get this week? Cardinals offense, they really struggle to create explosive plays. Everything has been, can they get their run game going? Can they create opportunities like a horizontally quick game? And I think there will be opportunities against this Rams defense. So overall, I think the Cardinals offense should be able to keep this tighter than what the spread indicates. I'm really struggling. You mentioned the look ahead line, 6.5 seems to be a little bit rich.
All right, Suma making a case for the Cardinals there. Judah, notably, you didn't have any strong opinions for the Saturday games. But with the 3 games that are going off on Saturday, any sort of thing that you potentially lean to here, or is it going to be just a complete pass for you for Saturday NFL?
I think it's, mostly a pass. Kind of the angle I'm looking at, I guess, live for the Broncos and Bengals game is I'm curious, and you don't want to coach your bets. I have no clue if they're going to do this pre-flop. But if you just kind of look into what is projected for Cincinnati, like Joe Burrow's pass attempt prop is 37. His yardage is, I think, the highest I've seen this season. There's building in a lot of kind of projection there. The Bengals have a pretty bad run defense. The Bengals have not opted for the run at all in recent weeks. I'm curious if they go back to that. That's kind of something I'll be monitoring live. In that case, I think you start to get the running back props and game unders to be pretty valuable, in addition to just a whole slate of unders on the Bengals side if the Broncos try and play keep away. But it's a spot that I'm mostly laying off these 3 games.
All right, we're going to get into the Sunday games here in just 1 second. A reminder, the holidays are here, and when you enjoy all the NFL games going on, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, has you covered. We're big fans of FanDuel here on Forward Progress. We use them regularly during our live watch-alongs, where they have great in-game markets. I mean, they just have a ton of markets that you could possibly bet on, which is, if you're a sports bettor, it's pretty much the dream. And right now, all customers get a profit boost every single NFL game day this week. That means you can pump up your gridiron winnings multiple times, both Saturday and Sunday this week. You can use a 25% NFL live profit boost token. So if you're watching the games live Saturday or Sunday, don't forget to use that profit boost token, 25%. And FanDuel has tons of ways you can get in on the action. You can bet money lines, spreads, player props, and more. Plus, with super simple live betting, lightning fast bet settlement, and instant withdrawals, FanDuel makes betting on the NFL easier than ever before. Visit FanDuel.com/forwardprogress to download FanDuel today. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms for offers at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, pivoting to a Sunday slate. It's not exactly the most appetizing from a viewership perspective, but we can bet on these games. We'll look to possibly find you some value in these games, and we're going to start it off with the Colts and the Giants. Lots of moving parts in this particular game, particularly at the quarterback position for the Indianapolis Colts, where Anthony Richardson was seen watching practice today. Colts are still favored by over a touchdown, laying 7.5 minus 115 on the road. Total in the game, 40.5 at FanDuel. Judah, let's get to you here first. Indy and the Giants. Break it down for us. What do you see here?
Yeah, I would have a kind of lean to the Colts here. This is something I like to talk about of just like point spread reflects multiple things. It is like a reflection of fundamental value and a way to evaluate kind of teams relative to each other, but they're also real points in real games. And this is a Giants team, which is a disaster. It's like the kind of midwit meme. I feel like just like the Giants offense can't score. The Falcons have not been playing great on defense. It took them, one scoring drive for the Giants. The Colts have been a lot better in coverage. They have a top 5 perfect coverage rate for the season. That's gotten a lot better in recent weeks. It's kind of just like your typical, Gus Bradley's been playing cover 3, doing his thing for years now. I don't think there's so much that the Giants can do to move the ball here. They're also they're so hurt. They're so bad. There isn't that much to say. On the flip side, the Colts have been moving the ball. They, I think, if Flacco's in, I think we're going to see obviously a lot more of a pass-heavy attack, which would make for some very intriguing kind of prop markets on the receivers, because I think there'll be a lot more volume. And the Giants have actually been one of the biggest pass funnels in the NFL. They've been kind of middle of the pack, stopping the run, but have been a disaster. They're last in the NFL in EPA allowed per pass. I think the Colts, with Richardson, they're going to be able to run the ball well, just by virtue of his gravity. They'll be able to take shots downfield where the Giants are vulnerable. If it's Flacco, I think we'll start to see more of that kind of pass-heavy approach. But either way you look at it, I think there's kind of a lower variance spot of this team's going to score, and I'm not sure the Giants are going to be able to keep up.
Suma, you got any additional thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree with Judah. Medic Neighbors also a game time decision. I just don't see how the Giants score. And then whether it's Flacco or Richardson, I also agree that I expect the Colts to move the ball here. Joe Flacco has been looking better in the drop-it game before he got re-benched, basically. But he also faced in his 2 bad games, he played at Minnesota against the Bills defense, which has been better and healthier back then. I think if it's Joe Flacco, I think that this Colts drop-back game should be easily enough to score enough points at the Giants.
I kind of like the Colts on a teaser play here as well. I know it's stating the obvious at this point, low total game, teasing through 7-3. I think, this time of year, we joke about like motivation, or we talk about motivation. I joke about it. Some people talk about it. I think the Giants are actively looking to secure the number 1 pick. That doesn't mean that they're not trying to win this game. I think the players on the field will try, but they just don't have enough players on the field. John Michael Schmitz, their center, will be inactive this week. Micah McFadden got ruled out. Their linebacking core is already a disaster. Their front seven's already a disaster. Potentially, like Suma said, we might see Malik Neighbors not play in this game as well. And those are just too many injuries to overcome. I know the Colts have some injury situation of their own, with Quentin Nelson doubtful in this game, Alec Pierce dealing with the concussion, but these are still 2 football teams in very different leagues right now. And I think Indy is a very viable teaser option this week. Moving on to the next game on the board, it is the Saints and the Raiders. Again, some ugly games this week, but we can bet on all of them, which is the beauty of betting on the NFL. Las Vegas Raiders laying 1.5 on the road right now, -116 money line at FanDuel. Total in the game is 37.5. I probably have the strongest opinion here, and it's not really a strong one for this particular game. It's more so something to do, which is monitor the status of Chris Olave for the New Orleans Saints, because the Saints' offensive weapons, it's not a surprise that they got shut out against the Green Bay Packers last time we saw them. They are a complete disaster of an offense. Rashid Shaheed IR, Bub Means IR, Taysom Hill IR, Alvin Kamara groin injury, Jawan Johnson's banged up. They're going to be missing Eric McCoy and Lucas Patrick on the offensive line this week. It really doesn't make any sense for them to play Chris Olave, a guy who's dealt with multiple concussions in the past, but Rizzi trying to keep a job, I think, going into next year, something along those lines. So you really have to monitor it. But the Raiders defense, despite losing multiple players on the defensive line this year, still have a pretty good matchup advantage against an offense that has no weapons. I trust Aiden O'Connell a lot more at quarterback than I do with whatever the Saints are going to roll out there this week. So I'm really monitoring that. I think that this price is short if Olave doesn't play. If he does, different story, different handicap, probably avoid the game at all costs at that point. But right now, that's the way I see it between the Saints and the Raiders this week in a disgusting game. And we'll just transition straight into another disgusting game. This one in the AFC South. It's the Titans and the Jags. The Titans have still only covered 2 spreads this season. We're going to week 17 at this point. Jags, small favorites at home, laying 1.5. Money line is actually dead even at FanDuel right now. So kind of priced in a pick'em range. Total is 39.5 in this game. Judah, over to you here. Tennessee, Jacksonville. What are you seeing in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, this is ugly. That's for sure. I think if I had to kind of have general thoughts on this game, I would look towards like alt overs and or especially Mason Rudolph alts and maybe some Tennessee stuff here. Jacksonville, they've got by far the worst pass EPA of any team in the NFL. Rudolph has actually been able to move the ball with him at quarterback. They're averaging like 7 yards per attempt. Has not been the problem. And this is a Jaguars defense which is playing a ton of single coverage, which really kind of lends itself to a guy like Calvin Ridley, who's got a 28% target share against that coverage, one of the highest yards per route run. They've been giving Chico Okonkwo a whole bunch of work. I think it's kind of a narrow distribution of touches for Tennessee, making things like a same game parlay or a daily fantasy lineup intriguing, and kind of building around a really bad Jaguars team and Mason Rudolph throwing the ball a bunch more. This is an ugly spot, though. You don't have to sugarcoat it. There's a reason the total is as low as it is. I just think that unlike some other spots with how bad these defenses are, with a total in the 30s like this one, there's a higher likelihood of it kind of finishing in the 40s or even 50s than say a matchup of just like better defenses and bad offenses. I think there's just some natural volatility given these teams and how bad their defenses are.
All right, moving on to the next game. A much higher point spread, but I think certainly a little bit more interesting from a casual fan's perspective. It's Aaron Rodgers and the Jets going on the road to take on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills obviously playing for positioning in the AFC right now, especially after Baltimore beat Houston on Christmas Day. I don't know. I'm getting so confused by this week right now. I don't even know which days of the week they are anymore. But Bills are a pretty heavily juiced 9.5 at FanDuel. Most other spots have moved to 10 at this point. Total in the game has been bet down to 46.5. Expected to be some heavy rain in Buffalo for this game and this matchup this weekend. Suma, you're a resident Jets fan. It seems like I'm always going to you first here on these Jets games. Jets, Bills, what are you expecting to happen this weekend?
Yeah, Jets or pass for me at this number. If you shop around, there is a 10 available. Jets offense been playing better. Bills defense been playing worse. Sauce Gardner questionable. Devonta Adams looks good to go according to Jeff Ulbrich. The rain, which looks really bad, might offer some positive variance for the underdog here. I think the Jets offense, the way they've been playing in recent weeks, they had kind of a down against the Rams, but I think the way they've been playing overall lately, I think there is a chance for them to score some points against this Bills defense. And I could only look at the Jets at the current price.
Yeah, interesting market movement in this game this week. Definitely all the early money coming in on the Jets, with some of the talk about McDermott and potentially playing it a little bit more casual. As the week has went on, Buffalo cleared Matt Milano to play in this game. They cleared Rasul Douglas, and the Jets injury report has gotten worse and worse. Obviously, Devontae Adams was at risk. It seems like he's going to go and play at this point. There's Sauce Gardner information as well. So interesting to just watch the back and forth in market this week in this particular game. The game of the week will certainly be the Packers and the Vikings. Positioning in the NFC is at stake in this game. Two teams that have Super Bowl aspirations playing one another in Minnesota. Mini a small favorite right here, -112 money line. The Packers -104, laying 1.5. Total in the game, 48.5. Judah, I'm going to start with you on Packers and Vikings. What are you seeing in this match?
Yeah, I like the Packers here. I think there are just almost fewer things that need to go right for Green Bay. To begin with, Minnesota has gotten a lot of their defensive value from stopping the run. They've been a top 5 unit, whatever. They're third in success rate allowed, second in EPA per rush. But this is a Green Bay team which has been able to run on everyone. And Minnesota has had a lot of their success not on just like selling out to stop the run, but they play extremely light boxes. They are pretty vulnerable to good rushing offenses, and I think that the Packers can succeed here. And Jordan Love has had like a very interesting sort of trajectory of the season. Right, he had that MCL sprain in week 1, which he kind of rushed back for, then was dealing with a groin injury. And in particular, his play against the blitz, he kind of average out his season results. His like EPA per play, whatever efficiency metric you want to choose, is like right about average to slightly below average. But since the bye, he has improved dramatically. And it's like you don't really want to look at kind of one output stat or whatever, a bunch of output stats and draw to one conclusion, but also against the blitz. Since that time, his ability to extend plays, so from when the blitz arrives to when he actually releases the ball, that is increased by about like 0.35 seconds. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider kind of how a blitz play functions, it's like every 10th of a second you buy is another, by definition of having a blitz, you have fewer guys in coverage, and that's buying time for your receivers to get open further downfield, and naturally just avoiding sacks, which has been kind of Love's calling card. The Vikings obviously blitz a ton. They've done so on more than 50% of plays. And I think that's where the Packers can have success. And very quickly on the flip side, Sam Darnold, this is true of his entire career, has been very dependent on almost his scheme, right? It's not a coincidence that in Kevin O'Connell's scheme, he's been terrific. But as kind of a parallel to that is you want him to stay in structure. You want to have good weapons around him and a good offensive line where plays are kept clean. And he has some of the biggest discrepancies depending on whether he's disrupted or not. Disrupted defined as either perfect coverage or a play in which pressure arrives such that a quarterback can't go through his progressions. He's not great at creating. And Green Bay has been terrific at generating disruption. They're the third best in the NFL. I think we're going to see a lot bigger of a sample of plays that are disrupted. And I don't think Darnold is the same quarterback against a defense like Green Bay, which I think is probably overrated relative to market, but kind of has a matchup advantage against Darnold here. I'll be on Green Bay on this one.
Suma, hard to follow that up. There's a lot of information that Judah threw out there. I know you're leaning the same side. What else can you add to that?
Yeah, exactly. And I also had the exact same notes about the blitz stuff. I pulled up the numbers this week. Since the bye week, Jordan Love has been averaging 0.476 EPA per play and a 55% success rate against the blitz. Like Judah said, this has been a completely different offense since the bye week, since Jordan Love supposedly got over his injuries. I remember the first game against the Lions, and it was a rain game, and Jordan Love, you really could see that he could not really move off of his groin injury. And since the bye week, they are scoring, I think, 30 plus points in every game except against the Bears. I think even though the Vikings defense has been very solid and they're getting Ivan Pace back, a decent blitzing linebacker, I think that Matt LaFleur, especially, they will have a lot of answers for the defense. The Lions also showed some stuff how to attack that Vikings run defense. I think Matt LaFleur has been one of the best OC/play callers this season when it comes to scheming up the run. Incredible stuff this season. So I'm fully on board with Judah here. I'm pretty high on the Packers, and I think their offense should be the deciding force in this one.
Yeah, I'm not quite on board with you guys yet, but I do want to address Xshesh's comment here. Is the Packers defense this good? Because, it's a question I've been asking myself as well, right? They've dealt with the Jair Alexander injury pretty much through like the latter half of the year, in and out of the lineup. When he has played, he hasn't finished games. Last couple of weeks, Evan Williams has been out. Javon Bullard has been out. Quay Walker, who's really kind of like a shell of his former self, but still a missing starter on defense as well. And they still survived even without these players. The big thing for me with the Packers defense is that they are able to generate pressure without blitzing. And that's been a consistent theme for them the entire season. They've been upper half of the league in terms of pressure rate. Just looking at it now, 30.1% pressure rate. they're only blitzing 21% of the time. And that's really worked to their advantage. And that's where I see an issue with the Vikings offense, because Sam Darnold has played well, but he has also taken a lot of sacks. And if we look at the last 5 or 6 weeks, he's tied with Justin Herbert for taking the most sacks in the entire league. And you just can't take those negative plays. Green Bay has been able to avoid a lot of those, and Sam Darnold has not. So I do want to give Darnold credit for the way he's been playing, but ultimately that might come back to bite them in this particular matchup. Suma, I know you had some additional thoughts here. You can jump right back in.
Yeah, regarding the Packers defense, I also think that, especially since the bye week, they've played an extremely easy schedule in general. And what their weakness is I think, still the middle of the field defense. We saw it against the Lions, like Jared Goff hit like almost, I think, every play over the middle of the field, in breaking routes, crossers. And I think that's where the Vikings are also extremely good. And I would not be surprised if KOC will dial up a lot of these crossing plays to Justin Jefferson down the field. I think the Packers linebackers are still vulnerable in coverage.
Yeah, I want to have something in this game because it's one of the 2 games, I think, in the late window on Sunday, but might just end up watching this casually as a fan. I think this will be a good matchup. We got the Cowboys and the Eagles this week as well. NFC East matchup. Obviously, a lot of line movement in this game that stems from a couple of key injuries. Jalen Hurts extremely unlikely to play in this particular matchup at this point, coming off the concussion last week. Kenny Pickett, had a rib injury. I call him Kenny Ribbit for a second there. I had a rib injury coming off of last week, but he's set to start for the Philadelphia Eagles. On the Cowboys side of things, CeeDee Lamb being put on IR for the season. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury. He gets an insane amount of targets from Cooper Rush. So that's certainly going to be a blow to the Dallas Cowboys offense. I'm going to go to you here, Judah. Cowboys and Eagles seen a lot of back and forth in this game. All the early money on Dallas, a little bit of money on Philadelphia this morning, pushing this back out to juiced 7s, some 7.5s in market. What do you see in here between Dallas and Philly?
Yeah, I think this is somewhat dependent. I just saw AJ Brown. Like Sirianni seems a little bit iffy there. I'm not a doctor, don't love to prognosticate on these things, but I'm going to assume he's in, though I think this takes a hit if he's not. I just first off want to look at like where the and again taking kind of a prop approach here, as this would kind of not traditionally be a side that I'm on. Like Kenny Pickett sitting at like I think 175, and just some notes on Kenny Pickett relative to a guy like Jalen Hurts. See, it's 171. You can't exactly. I mean, obviously, there's like differences in the quality of play and the efficiency, but like Jalen Hurts also rushes for like 7-8 plays on scrambles a week. Like those are a lot of dropbacks that would otherwise go to or now will go to kind of passing plays. Obviously, they might change up their run pass ratios, but you understand the idea there. And also, Kenny Pickett gets rid of the ball a lot quicker than Jalen Hurts, which one is going to mean, I think, fewer sacks, and two, against this Cowboys defense, who basically just has Micah Parsons generating quick pressure, I think allows for the Eagles to kind of actually use their offensive line advantage. Like Hurts takes so many sacks, and he leads the NFL in what I have as quarterback-induced pressures of just like holding the ball for way too long. I don't think we're going to have that with Pickett, so which I think is going to lead to more volume on his side. And I guess if we were going to make kind of the strongest case for Philly, I think it's that Cooper Rush and the Cowboys have designed their offense to get rid of the ball quicker than anyone else in the NFL. That can work when you have CeeDee Lamb generating separation as quickly as he does. And he was basically the entirety of this passing offense. But he's out of the lineup. This is a disaster of a skills position group. They don't give Kevontae Turpin snaps. You're probably going to see Jonathan Mingo out there for a bunch, and like he's not going to earn separation against this Eagles secondary. I don't see how the Cowboys are going to move the ball. If anything, you want to go back to the kind of Pickett side and look at Pickett all. It's like the Eagles can just run a ton of plays by virtue of shutting down Cooper Rush as they did in their previous matchup. I think that the Cowboys are very beatable on defense. You can run against them, especially if you can mitigate their pass rush. You'll be able to throw as well. And this is a complete mismatch, I think, on the other side of the ball, with the Cowboys really relying on generating early separation against a very good Eagles secondary, and now with that CeeDee Lamb, that's not a great spot.
All right. Great breakdown there of the Eagles and Cowboys. We'll move along to the Carolina Panthers visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, the Bucs coming off of a disappointing loss to the aforementioned Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. We're getting some Tampa Bay money in market in the last little bit. Not crazy amount of money, but we're up to -8.5, -0.5 at FanDuel. Total in the game is 47.5. Autopal mentioned this earlier. Who we like to tease with the Colts, I'm going to say the Buccaneers are the best option on the board right now, particularly because of who the Carolina Panthers are rolling out on defense this week. The Panthers have a bad defense. It struggled with injuries at times over the course of the year. This week, might be one of the worst weeks. J.C. Horn downgraded to doubtful. Smith Wade is out at slot corner. They just don't have very many cornerbacks. Josie Jewell is going to be out at linebacker this week. Some guy named Chandler Wooten is starting at linebacker this week for the Carolina Panthers. Undrafted linebacker out of Auburn, 25 years old. It's a disaster on the back end. And listen, yes, Tampa Bay does have some offensive injuries. Cade Otton will be out again. They can still move the ball on a very depleted secondary and linebacking core. I do like Tampa Bay to score a lot of points in this particular matchup. That Panthers defense is just tough to roll out there. So, for the teasers this week, I think Tampa Bay really fits the mold. Not because they quote unquote need to win, but just because it's a really solid foundational matchup for this Bucs offense that has been able to move the ball very consistently against poor defenses. Miami Dolphins at the Cleveland Browns. Could be an ugly one with some weather in Cleveland. Not cold weather, but a lot of downpour, which would be troubling, from a viewer's perspective, not necessarily from a gameplay perspective. Dolphins also could be officially eliminated by the time this game kicks off, depending on the results on Saturday. So we'll have to monitor that, see what goes on with the Chargers and the Broncos. But market right now at FanDuel, Dolphins -6.5, -114 total in the game, 38.5. Judah, going over to you here. Dolphins and Browns. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, first off, a complete disaster. We're going to get a late December game with heavy precipitation and not being snow. That should not happen. I think this is kind of weather dependent. I don't love this if we're going to start to see, if we have a real downpour, but also it is worth noting that the weather in that stadium is very volatile and no one knows what's actually happening. And not a meteorologist, just have some experience of weather reports being wrong there. Let's just I'll make the case for if the weather isn't so bad, because that's what kind of I would have the most interest in, and that is similar to the Giants, what we talked about earlier. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a historically bad quarterback right now. Talked last week about at least in my database, only Ryan Finley has a worse EPA per play than Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and of that sample of plays, Dorian Thompson-Robinson had a better supporting cast than he has right now, a much healthier offensive line than he has right now, probably better skill position groups. They're a disaster of an offense. He's averaging historically bad yards per attempt. There's not kind of further analysis that needs to be done. He's a disaster of quarterback, and they cannot move the ball. And on the other side of the ball, Miami has seen the fewest single high looks of any team, right? Having two safeties to try and take away the explosive plays. And they've still been great in single high. They just don't see it very often. And the Browns are not a team who varies their coverage by opponent. They play a ton of single high. They do it every single week. And that leaves the door open for guys like Tyreek Hill. We'll see about Jalen Waddle's status. But we have a very large sample of the Dolphins absolutely destroying single high looks. Cleveland allows the most explosive plays of any team in the NFL. Again, assuming the weather cooperates here, I'm definitely on the Miami passing game. And quite frankly, I'm not sure it's going to matter if the Browns offense continues kind of at this pace with Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
All right. We're going to get into the primetime games, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football in just 1 second. Schefter just tweeted, Packers ruled out linebacker Quay Walker, safety Evan Williams, offensive lineman Andre Dillard as a backup lineman, and cornerback Jair Alexander for Sunday's game against the Vikings. So we'll see if there's any sort of market push in that game. But I would say none of those are unexpected as of now. All were trending in that direction going into today anyways. Sunday Night Football flexed into the spot. It'll be Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, rookie versus rookie, Falcons and Commanders. Saw the Falcons blow out the Giants last week. That was 2 pick sixes in that game against Drew Lock. They find themselves as 4.5-point underdogs on the road at Washington. 47.5 is the total in this game. We haven't talked a lot of totals on today's show, but Judah, you want to talk total in the Sunday Night Football matchup.
Yeah, again, weather dependent, I guess, and honestly, I have not actually checked the specific forecast for this game. Talked about Jaden Daniels last week and how I think he is an entirely different quarterback when he is running on his scrambles, as he has now for the last 3 weeks. And I think that the offense is generally underrated relative to market, just because it's accounting for a large sample of those midseason games where Daniels was not fully healthy and not running as much as he has now. And now he's got a matchup where Daniels has not had a lot of clean pockets to work with. Now, part of that is a function of his own doing, holding the ball for a long time. But this is a Falcons pass rush, which is allowing teams to have clean pockets on about 70% of plays. The base rate for Jaden Daniels is closer to like 55%. So there are a lot, I think, of reasons to be optimistic about this Washington offense. And on the other side, I think this is a defense that is not particularly good. They've been beaten by anyone who kind of has a formidable offense. And the Falcons have been very run heavy the last bunch of weeks. I'm not so sure that wasn't a function of just their limitations at quarterback. And the Washington plays a ton of single coverage, which are spots where I keep confusing Drake London and Darnell Mooney. I was about to say their names wrong, but where Drake London has been, I think he's at like 3.3 yards per route run against single coverage. Darnell Mooney's not far behind. These are guys who are absolutely destroying single coverage looks, which I think means Penix is going to have plenty of open receivers to throw to. He's also been particularly aggressive, both in college and in the limited sample we have. They should be able to run the ball. If not, I see this as a spot where you've got two pretty good offenses going against some bad defenses, both looking to be explosive. And I don't think we're going to kind of see as many negative plays on the Washington side. Sacks have been a killer for them, but I think there are lots of different pathways for this game to go over.
Yeah, I like the handicap a lot there as well. It should be noted, all of these East Coast games this week have rain in the forecast in some capacity. So it really just depends on whether it's going to be like torrential downpour, light rain throughout the game as well. So timing is going to be important with a lot of the entries on these totals if you haven't entered there already. But I do agree with Judah. I think this game sets up really well for offense. And for me, it's just about getting, kind of the best number possible in this type of situation at this point, dependent on the weather there. Monday Night Football is going to be the 49ers hosting the Detroit Lions. It has been a disaster season for the San Francisco 49ers, who are going to miss the playoffs. They put Trent Williams on IR this week. The Lions see themselves as 3.5-point favorites, although that's drifting towards the 49ers at this point. Total pretty high up there at 50.5 in this particular game. Suma, what do we do here? Lions, 49ers. Is there anything to do in this particular matchup for Monday Night Football?
Probably doing nothing. Originally, I liked the 49ers here and their matchup against a banged up Lions defense, but their O-line injuries really scare me. Trent Williams is on IR. His backup Jalen Moore went IR after the Dolphins game with a quad injury. Spencer Burford, who filled in for Moore, is dealing with a calf injury. Left guard Aaron Banks dealing with a knee injury. His backup has played 34 career snaps. And their center, Jake Bradnell, has also been bad in pass pro this season. So this is a highly concerning left side of an offensive line. And that really scares me. And I wonder whether that might have a cluster effect on their offense.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. The Lions defense is so gettable right now. And it seems like they just keep running into matchups that are consistently working in their favor. I don't think I'm discrediting the Lions defense at this. They just don't have the personnel. I mean, you look at the amount of players they've lost to injury, both in the front seven, on the back end. It's kind of a disaster for them. I wish I had more confidence in the San Fran offense at this point, but it's tough for me. to get behind the 49ers here. Difficult in the chat. Niners 3.5 best bet. We're going to get into our best bets here as well. If you do want to let us know in the chat who your best bets are this week, I'd be very interested to know that. If you're watching this after the fact, let us know as well. Drop it in the comments below. I do read every single comment, as much as people advise me not to. I do so anyways on a weekly basis. All right, best bet portion of the program. I got a winner again last week. Totals have been really good for me recently. I'm going to try to get right back into the W column with another total. Kind of skirted past it a little bit when we were talking about this game, but I'm going to play the Panthers and the Buccaneers over the posted total of 47.5, minus 115 at FanDuel. There's 48s in market as well, which are totally fine at minus 110. I really like the opportunity and the way this sets up for the Tampa Bay offense against this Carolina defense. And this is just all player personnel. But we look at defensive line. Carolina suffered since Derek Brown's been on IR with a season-ending injury. The linebacking core is a disaster. Shaq Thompson, Trevin Wallace, Josie Jewell, all out. DJ Wanham and Jadeveon Clowney will likely play in this game, but also limited in practice this week. Secondary is bad. Tampa Bay is going to be able to move the ball. Tristan Wirfs cleared from the injury report for the Bucs this week. He's been a very good left tackle. He pass protects really well. I see the Bucs being able to basically move it in any capacity against this Carolina defense. That's going to put Carolina in a game state where they do have to throw the ball a lot in this particular matchup, and I think they can be successful doing so as well. Bryce Young has gotten better as the year has gone on. Whenever he's faced teams that don't have an elite pass rusher, he's been able to move the ball. Obviously, Micah Parsons was a game wrecker when they played the Carolina Panthers a few weeks back, but safety injuries for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Antoine Winfield will be inactive again this week. Jordan Whitehead likely not going to play as well. I think this is a game that's very conducive to high scoring this weekend in the NFL. So I'm taking the over between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. All right, Judah, we're going over to you here next. I'm not sure if you're going to alt line or not. That seems to be your bread and butter. We will see.
Yeah, go into the alt line. Not a ton to love, I think, on the main lines here on Friday afternoon. Going to Green Bay minus 6.5. I think this is, as I outlined, a spot where Green Bay should have success moving the ball, whether by running or passing. And I think that the kind of matchup that Green Bay presents relative to the amount of disruption they can create against Sam Darnold, it really affects him. Kind of lends itself to a game in which Green Bay can score a bunch, get into a positive game state, and then you'll start to see the ripple effects of a lot of disruption and Darnold having trouble coming back. I think this is a spot where the Packers can win with margin.
All right. Judah going alt line on the Packers, looking for them to win by margin. Suma, over to you. End it off here for us today. Best bet this week. Who do you like and why?
Yeah, rooting for Judah because I'm going main line, Packers money line at Minnesota. I'm like I said, extremely high on the Packers. I think their offense has been completely different since the bye week / since John Love has been getting over that injury. You see it in the blitz numbers, who have been significantly better since the bye week. I think they will find a lot of counter success against those blind flows blitzes, against that Minnesota run defense. And I think if their offense can score early and often, I think we might see another game where there's a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold and where we might see a few more mistakes from him in an offense that also struggles to run the ball in recent weeks or over the second half of the season. So I think that the Packers offense has a wider arsenal to score points here.
Wow. It's going to be a very divisive forward progress group chat this weekend. We got Alex Moretto and Hitman, who are Vikings fans. We got TA, who played KOC, Coach of the Year stuff. We got Suma and Judah playing the Packers. That'll be an interesting game to play out in real time. But got a couple other best bets. Connor likes Denver. 3.5 would be pretty juiced at this point. XS says Difficult stole his best bet. I mean, whoever posts it first gets the rights to it at the end of the day. But XS likes the 49ers as well on Monday Night Football. That's going to be it for us this week. It's a wrap on our Week 17 Best Bets show. Thank you for spending part of your Friday with us. We really appreciate you tuning in live. If you enjoyed the content, or if you're just here to see if we can bounce back after whatever you're here for at this point, don't forget to hit the like button on YouTube, subscribe to Forward Progress as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. That would go a long way in helping us grow the audience as well. Hitman wasn't with us today, but his prop bets will be dropping on the channel tomorrow. Trust me, it pains me to say this. I hate promoting anything that Hitman does, but those have actually been fire this year. Set notifications for those. The numbers will move, but Hitman prop bets dropping tomorrow. And don't forget to join me Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's the Pizza Buffet. I'll cover everything you need to know heading into Sunday's NFL games. For myself, Rob Pizzola, for Judah, for Suma, for our producer, Jason Cooper, behind the scenes. Thanks for coming along for the ride this week. Best of luck with your bets. As always, bet responsibly, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.